handwritten letters from over a century ago between a poet and a bandit have surfaced at the Royal BC Museum. Veronica Cooper gives us a glimpse into the lives of these two unique pen pals.
So this is a letter. This is Shorty's out of prison by this time. This was 1919.
These letters, more than 50, were donated to the BC Archives.
And no one had seen them for 20 or 30 years by the time I opened up the boxes. And when I saw these particular letters in several little bundles, I was quite excited.
So what's in the letters?
So everyone knows about Bill Miner, the train robber.
Miner served several prison terms for stagecoach robbery in the late 19th and early 20th century.
But not too many people know about one of his sidekicks, who was called Shorty Dunn. And he was one of the people that was caught with Miner and sent to the federal penitentiary in 1906. It was his one and only attempt at crime. But he was friends with a man named George Winkler, who had a long-time residence in Victoria. He actually died in the 1970s, well over 100 years old.
After Winkler's death in 1978, a friend contacted the archives with a donation.
And they were letters from Shorty Dunn, the train robber, who wrote to George Winkler while he was in prison. He drew cartoons, obviously, as a way to pass the time, but also to show what conditions in the federal penitentiary were like.
The two men first met in 1905 in Princeton.
And Shorty was a ranch hand. He came from Wisconsin originally, but he was living and working in BC as a ranch hand.
Winkler had come to Princeton from Manitoba to manage a grain store. He was a published poet and became friends with Shorty as both men shared a passion for writing.
George was quite shocked when Shorty went to prison, when he caught up with Bill Miner and was caught robbing trains and went to prison.
And so George Winkler and some of his friends started a campaign to get Shorty released.
And they felt he'd made a mistake, and that it was a one-time mistake, and that he was a good person and he shouldn't have to suffer a life sentence. And they wrote to Ottawa, put a lot of pressure on various government departments to get Shorty released, and they were successful. He was released in 1915 after serving 9 years.
Shorty returned to Princeton but died by accidental drowning in 1927.
And George was one of the first people to receive a telegram letting him know that his friend had drowned. And Shorty's last letter to George was just a few months before.
The two had maintained their friendship until Shorty's death, and now these letters are safely stored for anyone to see.
People are welcome to come into the archives. We're open Monday to Friday from 10 to 4 with staff here to help people get started. And there's a whole wealth of information that people can find.
This Week in History, brought to you by the Royal BC Museum, bringing British Columbia's stories together.